Welcome to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm a lifetime Seminole fan.
And this is Chris and Jared, and we are lifetime Gator fans.
We are putting aside those differences to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. So today we are recapping Week 2. Florida and Florida State both very easily win at home. We'll touch on UCF's road win, and Miami wins at home as well. So let's start with the Gators as is tradition. Just tell me your thoughts. You went over McNeese State and the Swamp. We'll start with Jared, and we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great rebound win there for Billy Napier. Been a while since they won a game. I mean, you had a lot of people talking about that in kind of the media. How been a few bits since Florida got a W there on the board. So obviously good to kind of get that under the belt. And you win that game the way you're supposed to, right? 49-7 there. Consistently moving the ball throughout. Kind of really did what you want. Not a spectacular day numbers-wise for Graham Mertz, but 14 for 17, 193 with a touchdown. Bringing back the run game, obviously a lot of that, has to do with your opponent in McNeese State, but able to kind of get that run game going. Montrell Johnson goes for 119 yards, Trevor Etienne for 84. And then you had a true freshman, Treon Webb, for 71 yards rushing. So, again, you win that game the way that you're supposed to win that game. And, all is pseudo happy in the land of the Gator, I think, for the most part. Only allowed 112 yards, and I think that's my biggest takeaway from that game. And really and truly, you only allowed less than 100. Obviously, there in the fourth quarter, especially in the later half of the fourth quarter, you had walk-ons. You had guys that weren't on, any name or number on any sort of like roster or depth chart there on the field. So really and truly just a dominant performance all around. And a good motivator, I guess, going into this week.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere, Jared, that it was 301 days since the Gators had won a game. That's a really long time. It's a 4-game losing streak, and we get a W finally. Now it is McNeese State, so most of what we're going to say is a caveat and has an asterisk next to it, but still, we'll take it for sure. It was a huge win for the program and for Billy because we needed something positive, and for a while it had just been a bunch of negative. So something positive. And I said last week, when you play this game, you're going to have to beat them and beat them convincingly, or else everyone's going to be mad at you. And they did that. They did that. Almost, I think, the first 7, probably 6 drives, I think we scored a touchdown. And like Jared mentioned, it was all about the run. Mertz wasn't fantastic, but he was consistent. He did what we asked him to do. They gave him 1,000 checkdowns, and he took all the checkdowns. And so, which was nice. That's what you want a guy to do. We hit Pearsall once for a 50-yard touchdown. But other than that, it was just dumping it off and then handing it off to your running backs. Each of the running backs got their own series, the first 3 series, and then a bunch of other guys got in as well, which is nice. You want to see some backups in. And really some minor stuff we can talk about here in a little bit that went wrong, but for the most part, a really clean game for the Gators, start to finish. And, yeah, the defense was lights out. We know it's McNeese State, but after last week where you saw some improvement, just seeing a little bit more improvement here definitely helps the Gators. And just getting that experience, I think the announcers during the game were like, there are no seniors on the defense. Like, at least the first, second, third string, there's no seniors at all. So it is a young defense. So getting as many reps you can. And I'm curious to see, just, hypothetically, had this game been played before Utah, the same results, like how would we feel? But it is the second game. You get a little bit of bounce back. It's great. Crazy because you have a hard game Utah, then McNeese State, then a hard game Tennessee, then an easy game Charlotte, then Kentucky. So it's kind of up and down, which it's not normal. Usually you get a couple cupcakes first and then the hard game. So You got to try to look at this from the big picture, and definitely was a huge game for the Gators, and definitely just the confidence and for the fan base. Like, okay, there is some progression. Even though it was McNeese State, there is some progression and some hope going into next week.
Excellent. I think you guys covered it all. No final thoughts there. I mean, the rushing game is what kind of impressed me there, and the lanes that opened up. And pretty cool I guess this is kind of the standard now. The stadium lights effects seem to be pretty, add to the atmosphere in the Swamp.
Yeah, you were there, Jared. Let us know what the lights were like.
I mean, honestly, they were lights.
Okay.
They were cool. I don't. The word that I heard after the game was that they weren't fully operational yet, and so they were kind of. This is like their test run for the McNeese State game. So really, probably going to get the full effect here against Tennessee Saturday. So, but they were cool. They were a cool added touch. It was kind of fun to see, something different. The fireworks, being a night game in the Swamp. So it was a fun new little addition. It really made the third quarter songs. Obviously, We Are the Boys, and then obviously Won't Back Down. It made them kind of really cool and kind of added some new elements to that. So that was fun.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, just before we get going, I do want to just touch on the just a couple of negatives. I can't just be positive all the time. So, I mean, it is a positive and a negative. So last week, just riddled with penalties, riddled with mistakes. A lot of that was cleaned up. And in the first drive, we go down and score with ease, and then our holder on the extra point misses it. And so we missed the extra point. So, again, another special teams snafu. And then their first drive, they're driving, and it's like third and short, and we jump off sides, and they get the first down, and they continue. But thankfully, we were able to stop them. So it was kind of like, at first, it was kind of touch and go, but then, I mean, the rest of the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter was just as clean as you can be. And at the very end, I mean, frustrating. We had a shutout, 3 minutes left, and we fumbled at our own 8 with a fourth, fifth-string running back. So, really, the defense, in my mind, gets a shutout here, even though it says 7 points. But still, overall, I mean, compared to last week and this week, huge progression as far as, I mean, obviously you can't control the opponent across from you, but you can control if you false start, if you jump off sides, and if you hold. And we did a lot better at that stuff. A lot better at critical moments, not shooting ourselves in the foot. So I will give us a credit for that. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
One final note I would add on Mertz there. Obviously, they didn't ask him to do much, but he was really efficient in what they did. But, just being at the game and kind of from where I was sitting, I mean, McNeese State was like 3 deep the entire game. I mean, there were so many guys, they were playing way off the ball, and it was almost like they were just like, okay, like we'll let them, take chunk yards underneath, which was a weird strategy to me, but I mean, they did and we did. So I wasn't really too, I guess, concerned with the lack of downfield passing. I mean, they were playing 3 deep safeties most of the game from where it looked like from where I was sitting, and obviously when you're watching the game live, tough. I don't know what the defensive calls are, but just from kind of pedestrian observation there. So they were, trying to take away some of those big chunk plays, explosive plays. Obviously, it's McNeese State, so you still got to be able to get them. But, a lot of those came in the run game. So, all in all, I thought it was all right.
Yeah, it's exactly what we needed.
Yep. Sounds good. Any final thoughts, or we're ready to move on to the Noles?
No, that's good.
Okay. Florida State, very similar atmosphere where you're just kind of expecting a Cruise to win, and we do, 66-13 against Southern Miss. Just a couple of just high-level notes. It's kind of interesting. We've seen probably in the last, I'm going to go back just 15 years or so, to games that are played out like this. I kind of saw a shift where Bobby Bowden kind of played these games at normal pace. Jimbo Fisher took games like this extremely seriously. And he would burn like 4 or 5 timeouts on offense, coach his guys up, drag the game out. Mike Norvell just doesn't seem to care. He sees this as a complete scrimmage, which backfired 2 years ago. We all know we lost to Jacksonville State at home. So he still hasn't changed his approach on that. He's like, let's just run as many guys out there as we can. I think on defense and offense, we saw over 50 guys that probably won't even see snaps the rest of the year. We saw so many guys in the depth chart. Brock Glenn, our 4-string quarterback, makes an appearance. He's probably the future of that position. Tate Rodemaker has always been a really bad backup until last year when he proved his worth. And A.J. Duffy, the 3rd stringer, sees a little bit of time as well. I mean, Norvell, he's like, okay, this is just a scrimmage for us. On the first, I think it was the first quarter, we drove down. We went for it on 4th down 3 times in a row. I mean, it's not like Southern Miss is going to kind of stop you at that point, and we kind of had our way. So just a high-level thought there is Norvell he just kind of passes along and is like, well, let's just run as many guys out and get these guys some experience. So some other things about the identity of Florida State. I think it's pretty clear we're a second-half team. I think that we know who Johnny Wilson is, and he's not going to change. He's going to continue to drop passes. He dropped 3 here, actually ended up with no catches on the night. I think you just have to live with it at this point. There's nothing you can do about it. You just keep going to Keon Coleman, and I think Keon Coleman is going to be able to kind of get whatever play call he wants, and he's going to get most of the touchdowns this year on offense. So you see a lot of guys. You see a couple guys in Hill. You have a running back I'm going to be excited about. Probably the year's coming. Rodney Hill at running back. We also have a guy on the wide receiving core. His name is Hill, not to be confused. There's some freshmen getting some touches probably down the year. We have 3 really good tight ends. I don't think we've ever had that kind of depth before, so that's kind of exciting. And your backup quarterback gets 2 touchdowns. So those were some high-level, like really positive things. Didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on how the win over the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, just a couple of players or plays that stuck out to me. Obviously, that pick 6. Jones, he just read that and snatched it up and ran it in. And then you mentioned Keon Coleman. This guy's really good. 2 games. I've only seen him really 2 games. I didn't follow him at all. Was that Michigan State?
Yeah.
Was he from? I didn't really follow him. But in 2 games, he's really impressed me. I mean, he didn't score in this play, but he took a pass, broke a tackle, and hurdled a guy, and almost got in. And I think he later got a touchdown. But after his 3 touchdown performance against LSU, where he just abused their defense, he is a playmaker, which is nice. That it's not just Wilson. And when Wilson has those days where he drops them, you got another guy on the other side like Coleman. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a scrimmage, and it's another chance for the backups and younger guys to get some reps, just kind of like Florida's was.
Yeah, I thought it was overall. I mean, just like we've talked about, a solid win the way you need to win, and really on a day where you score 66 points, you don't really have to do much. Offensively, Jordan Travis under 200 yards, not a 100-yard rusher, and those aren't bad things. I'm just saying that they were just so efficient in the way they moved the ball and the way they called the game that you didn't really have to, you didn't have to do much. You were able to kind of work through some things there. So all in all, it was a very positive day.
Yeah. Defensively, I mean, what you would expect. We held them to less than 250 yards. The freshman secondary got a lot of experience in this one, so that's good for us to kind of get them some snaps there. You limit Frank Gore. I mean, he wasn't in their leading rusher in the day, and he only caught 1 pass despite being targeted 4 times. 13 points, I'm not going to complain about that. That's pretty much kind of what you expect, and, by the second half, the game was just completely out of reach. So, kicking remains perfect on the year, 2 for 2 on field goals and extra points. And, yeah, you walk away very happy with this. This is not a terrible Southern Miss team. So, and also they're not a Division II. They're in the, is it the MAC, the Conference USA? Honestly, they run together now. But, they're still a bowl eligible team that we're going to have a victory over. So, you can be happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
I have no other thoughts on that. Unless you guys have anything else before we move on.
Nah, not much when you beat a team that bad.
Yeah.
Not much to say.
I guess there is one thing. We did get Akeem Nicks injured in the secondary, so Kevin Noles has been a pretty good guy behind him. I know, isn't that great? It's Knowles, but it's spelled differently, but it's pronounced Knowles.
That's perfect for this.
Playing for us, yeah. So I think he's going to be a good guy. He's got a lot of practice, and he played a lot of last season, so we shouldn't miss him too much as on the secondary position, but that's the one thing you go into a game with this, you're like, please no injuries, and we did get one. But it's probably just an knee sting, a couple weeks out kind of deal. We'll see.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Let's actually jump to Miami really quick. They're probably one of the most exciting games of the weekend. I'm going to start with Jared on this one. The Hurricanes win at home against Texas A&M Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, man, I think this is a pretty big win for Miami. Obviously, I think that there's a lot of question marks if you're a Texas A&M fan, but we don't care about them right now. So, but I think there's a lot of question marks on kind of what they're going. But overall, I think this is a pretty big statement win for the Hurricanes. A lot of folks in the national spotlight weren't really picking them to kind of win this game. A&M came in with a lot of hype, even by me, right? In our conversations, like off air, I guess. I was really big on Texas A&M and their potential, and talked about a lot about their defensive line, which is very talented, but really didn't show up today or against Miami. Miami wins obviously 48-33 in a day that was really all about the passing game. When you look at Tyler Van Dyke, obviously going through it was like 334 yards, almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and was really kind of distributing the ball pretty well. Obviously, I can't remember. I know I'll pronounce his name wrong, but Xavier Restrepo, I think, 6 catches, 126 yards. No touchdowns, but, I mean, really just some huge chunk plays. Jacoby George, obviously, 3 touchdowns for the Canes there through the air. So, all in all, I thought they did a really good job of distributing the ball and really taking advantage of an A&M defensive line that really couldn't get any pressure throughout the day. The Hurricanes didn't run the ball extremely well, but they were efficient when they did, and they didn't really need to, right? Because A&M couldn't do anything to stop them through the air. So, pretty high scoring game there. If you're a Miami fan, obviously, you want to see that. You haven't seen that sort of, explosiveness in quite a while. So yeah, I think that's a huge win for the program and kind of for them going forward. A lot of folks, including myself, weren't really sure what to make of them and didn't really think they were going to be that great going into the season. And they started off the season, big win against Miami, Ohio, big win against A&M. Don't really know what that means for the rest of the year, but you can only play the games you play, and so far they have, and they've done that at a high level.
Yeah, I'd say this is a real big win for Cristobal and the program there. And I mean, we don't know what A&M is yet, but they are a ranked team, and all eyes are on them during the game. So it's a really big win to put up that many points against them and win comfortably against them. And Van Dyke, who I wrote off, throws 5 touchdowns, so 374. So maybe he's proven me wrong. And I was just right there with Jared, just not high on the Canes at all in a game they needed to win, just as for recruiting, just the perception of the country, who this team is, what this program is about. They come out and they put up a bunch of numbers against A&M. And again, how good is A&M? They were coming off a pretty bad season last year, so maybe this is a little bit of fool's gold for the Canes, but they looked impressive. They did what they needed to do. Offensively, they did well. Defensively, they did well. I think they have a kick return for a touchdown too. So every phase of the game was clicking for the Canes. It's a huge win for them.
Yeah, and every time Texas A&M had a chance to get back in the game, they did something crazy with the ball and turned it over. And this is not historically what Jimbo does against Miami. He really owned them, and the only time he even lost to the Canes at Florida State was the last season in 2017 at home, a team that was kind of down and he was kind of already checked out mentally. He just had his way with them all of those years in Tallahassee. So to see him go on the road like that and lose kind of the way they did and not be competitive, not be able to stop Van Dimes is really shocking to me. The passing game of Miami kind of had their way, and it was just crazy.
One thing that, I don't want to obviously take away the focus too much here, but, with Jimbo Fisher having a lot of ties to the state, one thing I would kind of like to touch on and hear your thoughts on, Brandon, is, what do you think this means big picture for Jimbo Fisher and his future at Texas A&M? Obviously, with that huge contract and with the way he's recruiting, I think the expectation there has got to be, a lot higher than kind of the results that we've seen so far. So, where do you guys both, I guess, kind of see that playing out if the A&M season doesn't necessarily have an uptick?
I'll share a couple of thoughts on that. I think was Jimbo rolling into his 6th season now. The honeymoon dust is worn off, and I think you have probably the pressure on you is you get one SEC loss and you better figure out a way to win the West, especially this year when you have Bama losing to Texas. You have LSU already has a loss to Florida State. Now, once you enter conference play, that could be a totally different story. We'll see. Arkansas plays BYU. I think you got to tell a guy like Jimbo Fisher, you win the West this year or next year, or we have to talk about looking at this contract again.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make there that if they're gonna win the West, this is the year to do it, and they're not looking like it. I just out of curiosity, what is the buyout for him? Can they even afford to even talk about this?
I want to say when he started, I'll defer to Jared. It was a 10-year deal, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So kind of stuck with him then.
So, well, no. So, yes. You would think for any normal school in in college football, yes, you would be stuck with him because the buyout's got like $70-something million, right? I mean, it's astronomical. I will tell you this though, just growing up in the state and obviously knowing that program, and being around those fan bases and having spent a lot of time on that campus, that if the buyout is what's standing in between an incredibly talented roster and playoff contention, they have an absurd amount and number of boosters who will be more than willing to figure out how to raise $76 million. Like the Texas A&M and the University of Texas don't live in a normal like college football fan world. Like money is wild down there. Like they don't care. So if it comes to raising 70-80 million, all of us would be like, are you joking? Like no school would do that, but A&M, I'm pretty confident would have no problem figuring that out.
Okay. Good to know.
That's wild.
I mean, say they do buy out his contract. I mean, this guy won a national championship and has millions and millions of dollars. Like, he can't be mad. He's like, I already did my time. I won. Mm-hmm. And now I have a bunch of money. So, interesting. Very interesting.
I'm just kind of curious who you would go after at a position like that. Let's just say you decide to cut the cord there. Who do you talk to? Dabo Swinney?
Yeah. So if it's me, I mean, obviously, like, if Texas A&M called, but the Board of Regents call me and they say, Jared, you're in charge of this head coaching search. Obviously, if I'm paying a $70 million buyout, then I'm assuming that my pocketbook is also pretty unlimited. So I'm just calling every top name in the country. I'm calling Lincoln Riley over in Southern Cal. I'm calling Brian Kelly down in Baton Rouge. Basically, everybody who's had a lot of success or is a big name in college football, I'm just going to give them a call and kick the tires on. And then I don't know where you pivot from there because, I mean, Dabo's an interesting name. Obviously, 2 titles himself, but look at his team right now. He's kind of in the same situation that Jimbo is, right? I mean, your best years appear to be behind you, and Dabo's is different than Jimbo's, right? So Dabo was very, like, he was resistant to the portal and he caught a lot of bad flack, and now it's like showing on his team, like, they're not really that competitive right now. So maybe his era is over too, right? So, I mean, I don't really know. Maybe you look at like what a guy like Venables does at Norman if he's able to complete that turnaround. You look at what Mike Norvell's done. That would be a really big shot in the foot, of FSU, which obviously I don't see that happening. But I'm just saying that would be stealing 2 coaches would be wild. And then maybe at Notre Dame, maybe you give their head guy a call. I don't think he would go either. But when you have that kind of money to play with, you could probably figure out something.
Well, I think there is a coach out there that's not currently on a team and has had success in the SEC and is a bit of a wild card. Urban Meyer. Call him up day one and say, hey, you want to have some fun in the wild, wild west? You seem like a guy who likes to party. Here's a bunch of money. That's just... honestly, half joking, half true.
Yeah.
And honestly, in the world of like that we live in now with like the NIL and stuff, like that's not a bad idea. John Gruden, why not go crazy? And he's not doing anything. So I don't know, but yeah, no, I mean he with how much money is involved in like these media deals and these media rights and these schools, like somebody's going to call Urban at some point, right?
Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, you separate enough time between his recent craziness with the Jags, someone will call him. Say, hey, you have proven yourself.
I don't think that time in Jacksonville even really matters. I think it's just an experiment that kind of ran late in his life, and they wouldn't care.
Yeah. I didn't mean like on the field, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
He has 3 rings, But,
yeah.
And Urban Meyer's, I guess we could say, style, or maybe like, I guess we would call it like his lack of disregard for guidelines would play, phenomenally in the world of
that
NIL
was generously
football.
Worded. I applaud you, sir. That was well said. Man.
Yeah.
So, the season moving forward, just looking at Miami's future, that actually becomes a little bit of a tougher game than we thought. Now you do play Miami pretty late in the year if you're Noles, and Miami may be one of the top 4 programs in the ACC. You will know probably in the coming month or so. You see a lot of teams that are down in the program. Florida State's going to play one of them next Saturday. Miami has a chance here to probably win the 7 or 8 games that kind of puts them back into prominence and stops their alumni and boosters from saying, you know what, attendance is so bad, we're going to do BOGOs. You buy a Texas A&M ticket, you're going to get Georgia Tech for free. That's what it's come to there, and it's kind of sad. But one day you maybe get past that where you say, okay, ACC games, you don't have to worry about filling up the stadium for them.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts on the Canes?
No.
Awesome.
That's it.
Let me take just a couple minutes here to talk about the UCF Knights. They came back as the Cardiac Knights once again, and they win at Boise State 18-16, a game where they have 4 field goals by their kicker, and kind of struggled. John Rice Plumlee takes an injury late in this game, and is going to be out for probably 2 to 3 weeks, but still throws 2 interceptions, doesn't throw any touchdowns, still their leading rusher, but they went to more of a drop-back passing approach in this game, which you just haven't really seen from this offense in quite a while. So it was interesting. It was back and forth. It was a very tight game. I wouldn't say great offenses, not terribly great defenses either, but it was very competitive and pretty fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think this is just textbook Gus Malzahn way football game, right? And what I mean by that is like the Gus Malzahn way is like you just win, but when you look at the stat sheet or when you watch the game for 4 quarters, you're not sure how you got there. And so for me, this is like a textbook Gus Malzahn game where at the end of the day, he has more points on the board, and shout out to him, right? I didn't think the team played very well, but when you get a W, you get a W, man. And he's a guy that has proven that he can find insane ways to get W's. So I'm not gonna knock it too much. I'll agree with you. The offense didn't look great, the defense didn't look great, but got more points on the board. So there's something to be said for being able to consistently do that.
Yeah, one thing we saw with him at Auburn was kind of plays into this is if they had a phenomenal game on offense, next week it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's just they were so inconsistent. It was so lights out and like, oh, this is a fun offense to watch. And the next week they're like, oh, this is a garbage offense. but to Jared's point, they did win going on the road against Boise State, who I think is 0-2 now, but a lot of people pick them to win their conference. To go on the road, I mean, going to a place that's the temperature is nowhere near what you're going to find at Florida, and to win, still pretty good. And, hey, they have a kicker that's pretty good. I'm kind of jealous, to be honest, but good for them. Clutch kick by what is it, Boomer?
Colton Boomer. What his NIL slogan is? Ready for this?
What?
Dropping bombs and kissing moms.
Oh, goodness.
Zach Wilson, baby.
Yeah.
But at this point, you can walk around Orlando, he can get whatever he wants, So, just very clutch performance there. It's really kind of interesting. You don't see a whole lot of games where John Rice Plumlee drops back and passes, but he did it right from the get-go. Now, both of his interceptions were contested, and I think the first one was deflected by the wide receiver up in the air. Still, though, it goes on your stat sheet, and you can't take back the 2 picks from your opening week game either. So, got to limit the turnovers. There's no question about it. That kills all your momentum plus field position, and that's exactly what Boise State kind of capitalized on. But UCF defense, to their credit, Morris Brash on defense kind of made some stops along with the front 7. But they still continue to give up a lot of passing and a lot of big plays in effort to try and get a turnover. So in a game like this, it can really hurt you because you can't put a team away or you just don't force a lot of punts. But, this one might be an important win at the end of the season toward bowl eligibility. UCF's going to struggle to get some wins in Big 12, and this one may prove really, really important to have had.
Yeah, especially on the road. Very impressive.
Yep. Any other thoughts on Week 2, or we can start to look ahead in Week 3 if that's agreeable?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we'll start with the Gators. Staying at home to play Tennessee Volunteers. The tradition continues to play them Week 3. Tell me some thoughts and what you expect to see on the field.
Yeah, this game is pretty huge for the Gators. I mean, obviously, anytime you play Tennessee, it's huge no matter what. Great rivalry. Um, and man, just right after, I mean, in the '90s, it was Florida State, and right below that was Florida Tennessee, and usually the winner of that game controlled the East, and obviously because where it's played, it's usually in the beginning of the year. And Florida, after getting some confidence, we get to host Tennessee, who up to this point, 2 games into the season, they don't look awful, but they don't look really great either. They struggled against Austin Peay for a half there, and they were tied 6-6 with 20 seconds left the second, and they finally scored a touchdown, and they kind of shut them down second half there. But against Virginia and Austin Peay, they looked okay, still talented, but not like what people thought they were going to be. So I try as a Gator fan, you try not to read into that too much, because we had a phenomenal game, but ours was against McNeese State, and they looked okay. But I still think they're the better team, obviously going into it. And historically, I think the key that the Gators are going to have to do is the key matchup. It just always finds its way into this game is whoever wins the running game is probably going to win the game. And I think that's, we were very ineffective against Utah, and we didn't win that game. We were effective in the second game. And so can we keep that up? Can we stop them from running? And not just the running backs, but also can we contain Milton as a runner? We know he's got a strong arm. I'm not sure if he's as accurate as Hooker, but he has definitely got he can throw the deep ball. We know that offense likes to go and throw the ball. But we need to control the running game, the running backs, and contain Milton. I think that's going to be a real big key for us. And I think one player that is crucial to us is Princely Umenyielen, who is our edge rusher. He's going to be the one most likely coming off the edge, and I would assume be the one containing Milton, or having that job of watching and see what he does, watching the reads and all that stuff. And I think he's the key. So if you're hearing his name Saturday night a lot, most likely Florida is going to be right in the game, if not winning the game. But if you don't hear him, if he's a non-factor, it could be a long night for the Gators. And before I let Jared chime in here, one key thing to watch, I was just looking at the history of this rivalry, and we've won 13 in the last 15, some crazy number like that. It's been 20 years since they've won in the Swamp. But their 2 wins that they've gotten, the one thing that stuck out was every other our wins, we've kept them under 30 points. Their 2 wins, they've scored more than 30 points. So I think that's going to be key. Their defense holding them under 30 points and giving our offense a chance to compete and put us in a position to win. We'll get into predictions, all that stuff in a little bit, but I want to see what Jared thinks going into this game.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned was that run game. One big addition for the Gators coming back, Kingsley Equakin back at center for the Gators, and that's a huge piece of the puzzle back. I think you could see the offensive line play improve as a whole just from that one piece. Obviously, he's your center. He's making your calls. He's the most experienced. Yeah, I think Slaughter, he was serviceable. He did his job, but we all saw what happened in Week 1 in Utah, and we know that he's not Kingsley. So, him coming back could be a big boost for the Florida Gators run game. Will it be the end-all, be-all? I don't know, but it should be something to take note of and kind of watch and see how that goes with him fully back healthy in the lineup. So, could be opening some more holes there for ATN and Johnson as they kind of find their stride there against some pretty good competition in Tennessee. I think one thing, if you look at outside of if you're a Gator fan, is outside of this Charlotte game, there's no more guaranteed W's. Everything's going to be a dogfight. Everything we're probably going to be favored to lose. So, these games should be really interesting there. And I think having the game at home is going to be a huge boost. The fans always show out for a game like this. And, obviously the Swamp can be a pretty good home field advantage. I think Milton's a phenomenally talented quarterback, and he will cause some problems in the run game. He has the ability to go deep. It's Gators going to have their hands full here, and it should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, and like you said, it is a huge game because obviously we know what lies ahead after like Charlotte. But if you think about it, I mean, it is so important because Billy Napier, as a head coach at Florida, his record's like what 7-8 now. It's not good. So if you lose this game, your record is 7-9, and I mean it's a lot of pressure to win this game, and a game that is you're at home, but let's just be honest, Tennessee's just probably a better talented team. I don't know about talented, maybe we're the same, but they're definitely more experienced for sure. And you have to win this game. I don't want to say it's a must win, but if you lose this game, now you got road games against Kentucky and South Carolina and LSU. You got Georgia. You got FSU at the end. So you're going to need to get as many wins as you can get if you want to be bowl eligible, and you're definitely going to need this game. And it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a very, very tough one. I don't know. See, the line right now is 6.5 for Tennessee, and I think that's fair. I would probably maybe put a little bit more on it. I don't know. I can't say either way who's going to win, honestly, because I picked Florida earlier after 2 games. I'm like, I just don't know. I can't really say the Gators win. Until it happens, I can't really say. I can't really get behind it until it actually happens. So a lot of people are like, oh, they saw Tennessee struggle last week, and they're kind of maybe upset about the spread. I'm like, no, they're the 11th ranked team in the nation. They beat us last year. Like, I get it. It's going to be a really tough one for the Gators. It's a must win, I think, for Napier. And I tell you what, the swamp is going to be rocking. Like, Gator fans want this win so bad, not just because it's Tennessee, but we want to get into that I guess above 500, that momentum going into the SEC, beating quality teams. Like, we want that. We want to be back, and we can't do that if we don't win games like this. It's understandable if we lose this game on the road, but I mean, this is a great opportunity at home to beat a top-ranked team. I mean, that it's going to be crazy Saturday night.
Yeah, well said. It's really hard to gauge with Tennessee the opponents they've played so far. Virginia just has some struggles, and my heart goes out to this program because they had just devastation in their season. They didn't even get to play Virginia Tech because of that tragic shooting. You had a guy coming back. Tennessee beats them. Virginia loses their second game. So, like, you would think that they would own up on a team like Virginia. They took care of business. But you're right. The first half of Austin Peay was just really weird and kind of out of nowhere. That just kind of would make me nervous as a Gator fan looking forward to this game, thinking they've kind of held some stuff back and kind of played their B game just to kind of get to the swamp. And I personally think that maybe if you'd played this game in a month or 6 weeks, Florida has a better chance. I'm personally going to take Tennessee to win 31-26. And I think it's kind of been a low scoring game, and because I think Florida's defense is actually better than I thought. And so that's kind of where I'm at with everything on that.
Yeah, if I had to throw it, I know Jared's not in the business of picking games, but I would say 31-20 Tennessee.
Okay.
Like, I just don't think we're there yet. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I just don't think we're there yet. And until it happens, I'm not really ready to go there. Gotcha. But I mean, I could see the crowd getting into it and rattling Tennessee. Rattling Milton. I could definitely see that.
Okay.
But I also could see our young defense getting picked apart. Like, I could see that too. So, but it's all going to come down. If they can't outrun, and we just know it's a pass is coming, I feel a lot better. But it's all going to come down to the run game. Can we stop them? And can we establish a run game? We have the talent. Our center's coming back. And so far, Mertz has been pretty consistent, pretty safe. So I definitely can see either way. Until we actually do it, I can't really pick them yet.
Okay, gotcha. Well, Jared, let me ask you this way: at the end of this game, when the score goes final, who will you have said was the best Gator on the field that night, and who made the biggest impact?
Shamar James. That's pretty easy for me. I think Shamar James is going to be the best player on the field. He's been the best player on the field the past 2 weeks. There from the linebacker spot. He's been all over the field. He plays his assignments. He's a monster tackling machine. He doesn't miss. And he affects the game. So, I think that when you ride up, I think Jamar James is going to be the best Gator on the field. But I think he might be the best player on the field, regardless of the teams. He just has that kind of future, and he's already played like that. So, for me, that's a pretty easy pick.
Yeah, he has been impressive because you saw him at the end of the season come on after Miller got hurt, and we definitely missed the leadership of Miller, but you could definitely tell that James was way more athletic and just naturally his natural skills, and now he is the leader and of the defense. So yeah, he has definitely stepped his game up for sure, and yeah, we're gonna need him if we're gonna be successful.
Only a sophomore too. So.
Yeah, very, very bright future for that guy.
Oh, hey. Excellent. Okay, if there are no final thoughts, we'll go ahead and move on to Florida State traveling to Boston College, which is neither in Boston nor a college.
Go figure.
The Eagles, whoa. This team, I said it in the previews, they had some struggles and some demons to face this year, and I was absolutely right. They lost their very first game to Northern Illinois in overtime, in a game where they had shored up, they thought, the quarterback starting position. After 2 series, they said, we made a mistake. And they actually pulled him, and Castellanos, a UCF transfer, ends up getting the rest of the game under their belt, but he doesn't quite do enough to get them the W. Then they host Holy Cross this weekend, barely eke out a win, a game that Holy Cross was down 3 with 2 minutes with a chance to drive down and win the game. But they had a massive lightning delay, and maybe that saved Boston College a victory there. Then they ended up forcing a fumble in the remaining seconds. It was just a really bad performance, and they allowed a lot of offense to happen that shouldn't have happened, and they just didn't score enough to comfortably put this away, and so it was very, very close. So Florida State kind of rolls in. Earlier in the season, I would have thought, wow, maybe a 3-touchdown favorite against these guys. It's closer to 4. And Castellanos does like Ryan O'Keefe, another transfer from UCF, as his wide receiver. In fact, he's the leading receiver so far as touches. They do have a deep threat guy with Boston College, but Florida State is really going to shore these guys up, and the running game is really starting to take its we'll assume its role is a better way for me to think of it. And the offensive line for the Noles is really clicking. So this may be competitive for the first half, but in the second half, I just don't think it will. And I think Florida State wins comfortably. The only thing that can be odd about this, we talked about earlier, is they don't have a lot of attendance, and it can just not feel like an ACC game when you play there. So if the players aren't ready for like a lack of stadium noise or audience participation, that may throw them off. But there's no way Florida State loses to Boston College. They would only lose this game if they beat themselves somehow.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to win. It's plain and simple. And the only thing I could see them maybe having a slow start just because they've done it so far this year. And like you said, it's on the road, a noon game. And kind of who your opponent is next week, a big one against Clemson. I can see them struggling a bit, but there's no way Boston College hangs with them for 4 quarters. And I think Florida State's going to roll. You're going to see a lot of rata at the end of the game there.
Nice.
For
sure. This one's 41-10. That's all I got to say.
Fair enough.
I'm going to say they get to the 50s. Just the way they've been scoring. I'm going to say 52. I like 10. We'll do that. 52-10.
Wow. I was thinking mid-40. I was going to take 45, 16. So I covered the spread anyway. I don't really think this is going to even be close. So another game, nothing really to preview. UCF hosts Villanova. The only thing to catch here is you're going to play your backup quarterback because Rice Plumlee's probably not back until Big 12 play starts. So nothing to add there. I think it is Parents' Weekend. I'm going to be enjoying some of the festivities and the tailgates and stuff. So
now Nova's undefeated still, right? I mean,
oh yeah, Colgate and Lehigh, I think.
Yeah.
Are their victims?
Yeah. No, the just saying, 38-10.
There's a battle of the unbeaten.
Hey, I'm pretty sure. This is so weird we're talking about this. I think Holy Cross plays in the same conference as these guys who just challenged Boston College. So, there you go. There's your tie-in up to the Ivy Leagues in the Northeast. You're welcome, world.
Yeah, I think that the old Nova there, you know, might be having some surprises in store.
Are they a formidable opponent? Is what you're saying?
Jalen Jackson there, running back, has had a phenomenal start to the year. So you never.
one more player than I do on Villanova. So.
I know a player.
I know one. They have a receiver named Pringle because I like food.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it sticks out.
Yeah, I mean UCF. What? Here's the thing though. With me, I can never predict the UCF game. Gus Malzahn's our head coach. So like I don't know what they're gonna do. They may win 77-0, but they also might win 2-0.
Yeah, I don't know. This is very true. Going with my analysis, last week was an awful offensive showing, so this one is going to be a positive offensive showing. So,
okay, there you go. I was trying to find a game for the Miami Hurricanes as their next. Do they have
Bethune
Cookman?
It's Thursday. That's why I was looking at the wrong date. Okay.
Yeah.
So nothing really to predict there. I mean, Bethune Cookman, they do play pretty good in the SWAC. And FAMU's going to come out of that conference. They've already beaten Jackson State, did the Rattlers, but not going to get it done against the Hurricanes. I mean, probably don't pick Miami to cover just because it's a short week, but other than that, I really don't. I don't expect much out of the Canes.
No, it's going to be much of the same.
I really kind of thought the ACC was over this really weirdness of let's play a Thursday and or Friday game. Now, I know Florida State, Florida on Thanksgiving weekend, that's totally different to me. That's like a holiday and whatever. But I kind of thought it was a long-time gimmick. We would play these Thursday night games against each other, NC State or Boston College. Florida State was always like, we're not hosting these games. Forget it. We only host Saturday games. FSU was against doing anything like that. But the other schools were like, hey, yeah, we're Boston College. What else do we have to do on a Friday night?
True. Because look, they're not in Boston. So
no. It's a good point.
Yeah. Week 2. I mean, kind of just some teams putting some stuff together, getting the business done, moving on to week 3. You guys anything else to wrap up before we kind of start to close out the show?
Don't think I do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, but
I mean,
maybe not.
I hate to say in the state it was kind of a boring week, but that's just kind of the way it felt. And at least the Tennessee game will be kind of exciting. So I myself kind of wait for the atmosphere on that one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
No, I'm looking forward to being back in the swamp. Obviously, so we were there. We were there last weekend for McNeese State. So looking forward to being back here in Tennessee and just kind of watching this thing unfold and watching it go. Shout out to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills for being terrible at offense and allowing the New York Jets defense to score enough fantasy points to get me a 2-point victory. So big wins all around. Looking to ride that momentum of my fantasy team into the Tennessee game. So.
Okay. Well, I think this past weekend, the 4, I'm not saying the big 3, but the 4 major Florida teams won in college football, right? And then the 3 NFL teams won. So good weekend for the state football.
I totally forgot, Jared. I don't watch the NFL, but I was going to make a joke that the Boston College quarterback that won the starting job had a longer career than Aaron Rodgers did with the Jets.
Oh, too soon.
Pretty rough go there.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how ESPN and SportsCenter were just on social media just showing all kinds of like, oh, Aaron Rodgers this, and like he's carrying the flag and talking to this celebrity and talking to that celebrity, and then just like that, it's over. And it was just kind of, oh man, all that for
nothing.
Yeah, but it was an entertaining game though.
No, it really was. It was good.
Unless you're a Bills fan, it wasn't an entertaining game.
Right. All right, Chris, remind the fans how they can reach out to us if they want to reach us on social media, email.
Well, you just head on down to FloridaFocusPodcast.com.
That's right. I check all of that stuff on a pretty regular basis. Chris helps me out with that. So, reach out to us. I've had people on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, and they've replied to some of the tweets we put out there, and I've said, "Why don't you come on the show?" So, we're welcome to talking to you. We don't mind. We've all dealt with crazy people in our business. We don't care if you bring it here.
Yeah, a lot of traction on Facebook as well. So
yeah,
appreciate those that are joining the group via Facebook.
Yes, indeed. So thank you as always, fans, for all of your participation and for the downloads and the listenership. It means a lot. This is Brandon saying, "Go Noles."
This is Chris
and Jared.
Go Gators.